The morning sky over Manhattan was cold and overcast, casting long shadows across the towering buildings of the financial district. Nestled between those gleaming skyscrapers was Kingsley Enterprises, a real estate titan known for its luxury portfolios and old money prestige. The kind of company where suits weren't just expected, they were armor. But that morning, a different figure approached the building's grand entrance. A battered motorcycle rumbled awkwardly against the curb between two sleek black Teslas. Its rider dismounted slowly. A young black woman in a worn gray hoodie, frayed jeans, and dusty sneakers removed her helmet and glanced up at the building. Her name was Jordan Carter. No one recognized her, and that was the point. Behind the hoodie and humble gear, Jordan Carter was the eldest daughter of Robert Kingsley, the company's founder. Her father had built this empire with sweat and steel. But age and illness had slowed him, and the board had whispered about succession. Jordan, despite being heir to the throne, had grown up detached from the boardroom. Her father had wanted her to understand the real world first, and she had. Ivy League education, years working abroad, life beyond the corporate bubble. But after hearing troubling rumors about Kingsley's internal culture, stories of discrimination, toxic leadership, and silent cruelty, Jordan decided to return not as a leader, but as a ghost in the machine. She would go undercover to see what her father's legacy had become. She would work as the lowest of the low, a janitor. Inside the marble-clad lobby, morning bustle began. Crisp heels clicked. Suits flowed past the security checkpoint. Jordan stepped through the revolving glass doors. Immediately, heads turned, not because anyone recognized her, but because she didn't belong. At the reception desk stood Kevin Matthews, a senior manager in operations. Early 30s, tall, well-groomed, designer suit tailored to perfection. And beside him, flipping through a glossy tablet, was Madison Blake, the front desk receptionist, with platinum blonde hair, red lipstick, and perfectly arched brows. Kevin's eyes landed on Jordan like a laser. Wrong entrance. Deliveries go around back. Jordan kept her voice level. I'm here for a job. I saw there was an opening. Madison sneered before Kevin could respond. Let me check, she said, tapping her screen with exaggerated slowness. Kevin leaned against the desk, eyes sweeping Jordan's outfit with casual disdain. You sure you want to work here? We don't really have. He gestured vaguely. Starter roles. Madison looked up. There's one janitorial position. Night shift. Kevin chuckled. Well, there you go. Looks like we found your place. Jordan smiled politely. I'll take it. The smugness on both their faces faded into confusion. They hadn't expected her to accept it. They hadn't expected her at all. Be here tomorrow. 6 a.m., Kevin muttered, handing her a laminated access card. Don't be late. As Jordan turned to leave, she made a mental note of every name badge, every whisper, every mocking smirk. She wasn't angry. Not yet. 6 a.m. the next morning, the city was still half asleep. But inside Kingsley Enterprises, the cleaning crew was already at work. The lower levels of the building, the garages, the supply corridors, the janitorial stations, were worlds apart from the opulent offices above. This was where Jordan met Amanda Whitmore. Amanda was in her 40s, blonde, and perpetually angry. She was the supervisor for janitorial services, and she ran it like a prison. Her eyes narrowed the moment Jordan arrived. You must be the new one, she said, tossing Jordan a mop. That bucket's yours. Start with the executive hallways. And don't make me come check. Jordan bit her tongue and obeyed. The mop handle was splintered. The bucket wool squeaked. The floor she was sent to clean gleamed like crystal, but Amanda followed anyway, pointing out imaginary smudges. What is this? You call this clean? Nobody wants to see grime in this company. Clean it again. Some staff walked by, pretending not to hear. Others smirked as if enjoying a private joke. Jordan, invisible in her uniform, became the target of a silent game. How far could you push the help before they snapped? Amanda assigned her the worst tasks. The restrooms after executive dinners. The garbage bins no one wanted to touch. The stained carpet in conference room D. People like you, Amanda would mutter under her breath. And the sting in those 3 words was unmistakable. Jordan scrubbed harder. Because she wasn't just cleaning the floors. She was observing, watching the company she might one day inherit. And she was taking notes. As days passed, Amanda wasn't the only one who grew bolder. Kevin Matthews began dropping by, always coincidentally when Jordan was mopping a hallway or emptying a bin. One morning, Jordan had just finished polishing a stretch of glass wall when Kevin strolled in with a coffee cup. He pretended to stumble. Coffee spilled. Oops. Guess someone didn't do their job. He said it loud enough for two junior analysts to hear. They laughed. Girl, if you can't handle a mop, what are you doing in a place like this? Girl. Always girl. Never Jordan. Never ma'am. Never even you. This became routine. Kevin would leave pins, trash, crumbs. Amanda would call impromptu inspections and point out imaginary dust. Staff would take photos of Jordan kneeling to clean, sharing them in private chats. Some HR reps whispered about her behind her back. She's tough, someone said, but so weird. Doesn't talk much. Doesn't complain. The cruelty wasn't just in what they did. It was in what they expected her to endure. But Jordan endured. Not because she was weak, but because she knew the game. To change the system, you had to live inside its worst rot. And Jordan was deep in it. By her second week, Jordan had mapped Kingsley Enterprises in more ways than one. Not just where the boardroom was, or how the supply closets were arranged. She mapped power. She mapped cruelty. She mapped silence. She noted how Amanda treated her crew versus how she acted in front of executives. The way she straightened her spine when someone important walked by, but slouched into venomous scorn the moment they passed. Jordan also began to pay attention to who looked away and who watched. There was one who stood out. Linda Evans, an administrative assistant with soft brown eyes and quiet presence. While others mocked or ignored Jordan, Linda sometimes left cold water bottles by her mop bucket. Once, she quietly slipped Jordan a fresh pair of gloves when she noticed her hands were raw. "Be careful with that bleach," Linda whispered one day. "It burns more than skin." It was the first sentence spoken to her with empathy in that entire building. That night, Jordan returned to her small rented studio apartment and opened her notebook. It was filled with names now. Amanda, Kevin, HR reps who laughed, the interns who snuck photos, and beside all of them, small notes, observed mocking, reinforced abuse, remained silent. But one name stood apart, underlined, Linda Evans' quiet ally. Jordan knew she couldn't win a war without knowing her battlefield. And her battlefield was made not just of policies or procedures, but people. Every hallway cleaned was another opportunity to observe. Every cruel word was a stitch in the corporate tapestry of corruption she was preparing to rip open. And the deeper she went, the more she realized Kingsley Enterprises was not just broken. It had rotted from within. But rot could be cut out, and Jordan was sharpening the knife. It was Jordan's 13th day on the job when the humiliation took a new form. That morning, Amanda marched into the break room and stood in front of the entire cleaning crew. "We have guests in the building today. VIPs. That means this place better sparkle like heaven or someone's going home early, without pay." Her glare found Jordan as if summoned by instinct. "You, take the executive lounge." Jordan nodded without comment. She headed up to the 11th floor with her cart and tools, knowing what was coming. When she arrived, the space was immaculate. Leather chairs, walnut coffee tables, a freshly delivered tray of fruit and pastries. She quietly began cleaning anyway, dusting along the corners, wiping beneath the seats. Just as she reached the final table, she heard a familiar voice. "Still here, girl? You were slow or just lazy." Kevin. He sauntered in with a trio of finance managers trailing behind, laughing at something only he found amusing. He tossed a balled-up napkin onto the floor. "Missed a spot." Laughter followed. Jordan said nothing. She bent, picked it up, and placed it in the trash. Kevin stepped forward and knocked over his coffee on the same table she had just polished. "Oops. Guess you're going to have to clean that again." The silence afterward was suffocating. Not because of what he said, but because everyone around him watched, laughed lightly, and walked away. Jordan stood in silence, letting the coffee drip slowly over the table's edge. Then she cleaned it, not for Kevin, but for the notebook waiting in her backpack. That night, she wrote, Asterisk, Kevin escalated humiliation in front of peers. Witnesses did not intervene. Power structure emboldens abusers. Plan timeline, accelerate. She stared at those last two words. Plan timeline, accelerate. The following morning, Jordan arrived earlier than usual. The building was still locked, the sky still dark. She sat in the cold silence of the maintenance hallway, reviewing everything she'd gathered. It was time to plant the seeds. She slipped a flash drive from her bag and began uploading a series of discreetly recorded clips. Audio from Amanda's outbursts, Kevin's condescending insults, screenshots of internal messages and texts she had discreetly seen and memorized, all stored safely, tagged, and encrypted. At 6 a.m., she met with Linda near the coffee machine. The older woman gave her a tired smile. You all right, Jordan? Jordan nodded slowly. I will be. Linda, if someone came in here to clean house, metaphorically speaking, do you think anyone would have their back? Linda hesitated, looked around. Depends who's doing the cleaning. But if you're asking if some of us are tired of pretending not to see what's wrong here, the answer's yes. Jordan handed her a folded note. Don't open that. Not yet. Just keep it safe. You'll know when. Linda stared at the paper, then tucked it away. You're not what you seem, are you? Jordan smiled. I hope not. That night, Jordan made two more moves. She drafted an email. Simple. Anonymous. Subject line, urgent, Kingsley abuse report. Attached were transcripts, names, locations, and internal footage. She scheduled it to go out in 5 days, unless she canceled it. A kill switch. She wasn't bluffing. The next few days passed like a loaded gun with the safety off. Amanda's fury only grew. Jordan suspected she sensed something was off, but not enough to stop herself. The more Amanda barked and berated, the more Jordan took it with a steady, silent resolve that unnerved the supervisor. Amanda didn't know how to break someone who refused to be broken. On the 4th day, Amanda called her into the closet-sized office behind the utility lockers. I don't know what game you're playing, Carter, but let me be clear. You screw up one more time, and you're gone. Jordan nodded once. Understood. Amanda squinted at her. You think you're smart, don't you? All quiet and smug. People like you don't last here. Jordan met her gaze, calm and measured. We'll see. Elsewhere in the building, quiet waves began to stir. Kevin noticed Linda speaking to Jordan near the elevators and narrowed his eyes. He made a mental note to bring it up at the next team lead meeting. Meanwhile, Linda opened Jordan's note late one night in the privacy of her apartment. Inside was a printed email thread, one that hadn't yet been sent. But it showed her everything. Names, receipts, screenshots. It painted Amanda and Kevin in a light so damning that Linda had to sit down. At the bottom of the page was a single line handwritten in neat, deliberate strokes. When this breaks, speak. They can't silence all of us. Linda clutched the note to her chest. She had worked at Kingsley for 12 years. Watch good people get run out. Watch silence rewarded and integrity punished. And for the first time, she felt a tremor of something long buried. Hope. On the 5th day, at exactly 8 a.m., Jordan entered the executive boardroom on the 18th floor. She wore her janitor uniform, mop in hand. Inside, the room was empty, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling glass. But the table had already been set with bottled water, sleek folders, and digital tablets for an 8:30 meeting. Jordan didn't clean. She walked to the head of the table, placed her mop carefully on the polished surface, and reached into her bag. Out came a fresh suit. Navy blue. Crisp. Tailored. She changed quickly, braiding her curls back with practiced hands. Wiped her boots. Adjusted her cuffs. Then she placed a thick black folder labeled Confidential in front of her. At 8:17, the first executive entered and stopped cold. Can I help you? He asked. Jordan looked up. Yes, she said, offering a calm smile. You can have a seat. The meeting's about to begin. By 8:28 a.m., every seat at the long conference table was filled. 12 executives, 3 department heads, 1 silent janitor in a tailored Navy suit. Whispers fluttered around the room like moths to a flame. Who is she? Is this a board meeting? Where's Kevin? Jordan stood calmly, placing her hands on the back of the chair at the head of the table. The silence grew unbearable. Then the door burst open. Kevin Matthews strode in, tie loose, tablet in hand. He stopped mid-step when he saw her. His brow furrowed. Then it relaxed into a smirk. "Excuse me, you're in the wrong room. This is a closed meeting." Jordan didn't blink. "Actually, Kevin, I called it." The room went still. He scoffed. "You called it? Who are you?" "One of HR's interns playing dress-up." She reached into the folder and pulled out a silver badge, embossed with a name. A legacy. Jordan Kingsley Carter, Vice Chair, Kingsley Enterprises Holdings. The smirk slid off Kevin's face. "What? Is this some kind of prank?" Jordan straightened. "No, Kevin. It's an audit." She opened the folder and began laying out the contents. Stills from surveillance footage. Printouts of text messages. Anonymous complaints filed and buried. HR transcripts. Time-stamped abuse reports. Names. Actions. Consequences. Gasps filled the room. Jordan looked each executive in the eye. "For the last 3 weeks, I've walked your halls, cleaned your messes, endured your insults. Not as your peer, not as your boss, but as the person you least expected to be watching." She turned her gaze toward Kevin. "Your actions have not only violated our code of ethics, they have damaged lives. You use your position to humiliate, intimidate, and silence. That ends today." Kevin stammered, reaching for his tablet. "You can't prove any of this. This is fake." Jordan raised a remote. With one click, the room's central screen lit up. Video played. Kevin laughing. Amanda screaming. Text threads. Witness reports. Kevin sank into his seat. At 8:45 a.m., Robert Kingsley himself appeared via video call from his estate. His image filled the screen behind Jordan. Pale but alert. "Gentlemen, ladies, I trust you now understand why I appointed my daughter." No one spoke. He continued, voice firm. "Effective immediately, Jordan Carter will assume full executive authority. Departmental reviews begin today. Terminations where appropriate. Legal action where necessary." Jordan looked to Linda, who stood quietly at the back of the room. "Some of you will leave this building today. Others will stay and help rebuild it. But let there be no doubt." Her voice rang clear. "Kingsley Enterprises belongs to those who believe in integrity, not intimidation." By noon, Kevin Matthews was gone. Security escorted him out quietly but deliberately, a cardboard box in his arms and disbelief on his face. Amanda Whitmore was next. The HR rep who had laughed when Jordan slipped on a wet floor, terminated. The intern who circulated the photos of her on his group chat, expelled from the building with immediate effect. Kingsley Enterprises had seen firings before, quiet ones, controlled ones. But this was different. This was a purge, a controlled storm. And Jordan was its eye. On the 15th floor, Linda Evans sat down across from Jordan in the newly restructured operations office. Her hands trembled slightly as she held a cup of chamomile tea Jordan had placed there earlier. "I never thought I'd see the day," she whispered. "Neither did I," Jordan replied. "But I think we both knew it had to come." Jordan handed her a document. "A new role. A promotion. Chief Culture Officer," Jordan said. "We need someone who's seen the worst of it to help build the best of it." Linda blinked fast. "Me? But I." "You never looked away," Jordan said. "You showed quiet courage. And that counts. It always counts." Tears welled in Linda's eyes. For the first time in a decade, she felt something new where numbness used to be. Dignity. Jordan returned to the janitor's closet that evening. She opened her old locker, pulled out the uniform, and folded it slowly. It smelled of bleach, sweat, and steel. Of endurance. She held it one last time before placing it in a sealed shadow box. Above it, she mounted a small brass plaque. "To those who work in silence and still rise." Then she shut the locker door. Behind her, the entire cleaning staff stood quietly. Some in shock, some in awe. A few, like Ramon and Jasmine, had tears in their eyes. "What happens now?" someone asked. Jordan looked around at the worn faces that had once been invisible. "Now," she said, "we build something better, and nobody here gets left behind." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was sacred. Follow for more. Stories like this deserve to be heard. If it touched you, please like, subscribe, and stay with us for the journey ahead. Thank you for watching.